You with my t-shirt on.
I can see you with nothing on, feeling on me for you bring that on.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Girl, I'm a sucker for the thing of me.
Okay.
What kind of girl do you take me for?
I think you should be the one to play Guess the Lyric, actually.
Promiscuous.
Yeah,
girl.
never
I missed
mind.
the line.
Right. Welcome back to Sisters Who Brunch, everyone. You're listening
Hi.
to us on the 1873 FM. I almost said 1875.
1870.
Sorry
what
about
it
the elongated break or if there was any silence. We just had some connectivity issues. So that's actually eaten up into our time, which is really bad. But for those of you who are just joining us, why? But also, we've been commemorating
Those who
Human
have
Rights
been
Day.
joining us, welcome back.
Yeah, welcome back. Sorry we went. If you're watching on Facebook Live, hi. You can
Hi.
see us. We're just chilling. So apart from Human Rights Day, as we mentioned, it's also our mother's birthday. So we can't actually stay much longer. We promised that we would take her. Are we taking her for coffee? What else are we doing? We'd made the big breakfast. I said I'd take her for a walk to the park.
I ain't got no money.
But it's
so
quite hot. I also
you
don't
better
have any
take-
money. Also, we're not supposed to go
take
out
her.
in public. We can go to the park though, right?
We can go to the park.
Yeah, because the park is like
Let her run around.
a safe
and play
place.
on the
She
jumping
is not a
castle.
dog, but it is funny because my sister and I'll be like, "Did you walk mum today?" Because my mum will get like really upset sometimes
Yes.
if she's like cooped up. So then, especially when I was in Australia and my mum would call me and she'd be like really mad, I'd be like, "Kelly, did you take mum for a walk?" She'd be like, "No, I haven't had time." So we're going to be leaving sooner than we wanted to, but I did want to say this. Even though we're going through, this mass hysteria and mass panic about COVID-19 or coronavirus, as everyone knows it, we also need to be mindful about the fact that the response has the potential to affect the human rights of millions of people. So the regional director at Amnesty International said censorship, discrimination, and arbitrary detention have no place in the fight against coronavirus, in the coronavirus epidemic. So I think that's something that we need to remember. He also carried on by saying human rights violations hinder rather than facilitate responses to public health emergencies and undercut their efficiency. So I think we just need to be mindful that in this time, we should continue to interrogate whether our human rights are being protected or diminished as well. And governments shouldn't take this time to think that they can kind of become authoritarian. And there is a balance between doing things for the public good or in the public interest for the best of the public, but making sure not to kind of overstep into those areas of censorship. People have the right to information. Discrimination, everyone has the right to access healthcare, and arbitrary detention, that's specifically for those refugees and asylum seekers. So once again, guys, thank you so much for listening.
you.
Kelly, did you learn anything today?
Yes.
What did you learn? Tell me.
Human rights.
Okay, what did you learn about human rights?
We have rights as humans.
Yes, that's great.
We definitely need rights as humans. And we need to work together to keep it going, not just on the day.
Yes,
Oh my god, 21st of March, let me do something good. Next day,
yeah.
don't talk to me.
I think that's definitely something we take away from it, and that's what we were trying to underline with the conversation. And we spoke to Gershwell Brooks again.
Yeah,
Thank you so much
that's
for speaking
nice.
to us. But just this idea that just because your human rights are protected or you're happy with the fact that you have human rights doesn't mean everyone gets to enjoy those
It's like,
human
I feel like
rights.
just going to the 1%ers though, because they're mainly the issue. Because they're all like, they're in their bubble. They're like, oh,
Yeah, people get in their bubbles, but it's essentially if you are able to practice your human rights or you feel that they are protected, you should know and recognize that there are people who aren't, and you should go out and fight for that. So that's the practical lesson you can do in your everyday life. That's the
Yeah.
message we want to say to everyone is that remember, just because your human rights are protected and not violated doesn't mean there are people whose aren't. And to make sure that everyone continues to have human rights, we need to make sure the most vulnerable in our communities are protected and their human rights are being respected. So if anything I want you guys to take away from this discussion is empathy.
Be empathetic, guys. I know our culture. South Africa, I don't know.
I don't think it's just a South African issue. I think it's a global issue.
Yeah, it's global, but we're here. Do
People-
you know what I mean? You got to
Yeah,
start somewhere.
and it's Human Rights Day in South Africa. Remember, we do have a Bill of Rights. It's in our constitution. We have the rights. We just need to make sure that they don't erode and that they aren't abused.
Philip Sebanda says thank you.
Oh, thank you so much,
Oh, yeah.
Philip.
Thank
I'm
you,
glad that
Philip.
I hope you heard from Gershwell and your question was answered in that conversation.
Yeah.
Guys, have a beautiful Saturday.
Yes.
Stay safe. Stay don't panic, but do take the necessary precautions, right? We are living in
smart.
precarious precarious times, uncertain times. If you have access to water, wash hands for 20 seconds. If you have access to hand sanitizer, do sanitize. If you are able to stay at home, do so in the interest of others and quarantine.
Or go to a doctor if you can.
And if you can afford, if you think you have the symptoms and you can get tested. But those are and we need to be mindful of the fact that not everyone can afford these things.
Yep.
And hopefully there are measures in place that can kind of help those who aren't able to kind of just readily or kind of carry out the recommendations that the WHO has recommended. But apart from that, have a beautiful weekend, and we'll hopefully see you next Wednesday. Hopefully this will all just like the curve will be flattened as they're talking about right now,
I feel like
and we
it's
can
gonna
do
go
it.
down so quick. Now everyone's like, what?
It's like,
Do you
remember
the time we
coronavirus?
had corona?
We promise, guys, it's gonna happen. So stay safe.
Have a good Saturday. It's your
Happy
girl, Dawn
birthday, Mama!
Kellyanne.
It's your
Happy
girl,
birthday, Mom.
Michelle. It's Sisters Who Brunch. Goodbye.